You want to avoid your dog or cat from ever getting cancer. You may need to stop eating the so-called good quality pet kibble. Ultra processed versus processed pet food, here's what you need to know. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Click up there to subscribe, hit the bell to sign up for notifications. Then when you click that link directly in the box below, I can send you a copy of my free book. There are several studies in people that show a marked association between the consumption of ultra-processed foods and the occurrence of serious diseases such as cancer. One fairly recent study of 22,000 people, it showed that those who consumed the highest portion of ultra-processed foods, they had a 20% chance of dying early death, and a 32% increased chance of developing cardiovascular disease. Researchers found clear correlations with the consumption of ultra-processed food and obesity, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and yes, cancer. Unfortunately, there's been very few studies on ultra-processed pet food and its linked to disease with our dogs and cats. One recent study of dog food showed that dogs that consumed dry dog food, they had marked increased levels of a specific biomarker called Glycate, and that biomarker that is directly correlated with systemic inflammation. And this same biomarker is consistently elevated in people that consume processed food. Let's just say you survive on a diet of these cheddar bunnies. These would be considered ultra-processed. And guess what? You're going to have marked elevated levels of this biomarker. You're going to have systemic inflammation. And if that's the case, you have a much higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease, a much higher risk of developing cancer. We know the very same thing is true with our dogs. If our dogs are dealing with systemic inflammation, a much higher chance of developing serious disease such as cancer. Some estimates are now saying that upwards of 25 to 30% of all dogs will die of cancer. There's a huge number of different factors, but one of the big things which we know has a marked influence is diet. It's what we're feeding our dogs, what we're feeding our cats. I've done several videos on pet food and cancer, but the issue of the food being processed versus ultra-processed, it's linked to systemic inflammation, and then it's linked to serious disease such as cancer. I don't think we've gone into this well enough. This beef here, we raise a cow, we butcher it, we have animal protein. This is not processed. Okay. This unnamed bag of dog kibble, uniform shape, it's got a whole bunch of different colors in it. You'd be hard pressed to identify a single real ingredient in this. This stuff is extremely high processed. Let's say you still feed your dog a premium dog kibble. Like, how do you know? Like, is this premium dog kibble I feed Tula? Is this considered processed or ultra processed? Like, I understand it's probably far better if I make Tula's food at home. I get some real animal protein and veggies, maybe add in a healthy carb brown rice. But I don't always have the time to do that, nor do I always have the patience. So, like, how do I decide? There's two things you need to look at. Number one, you need to see it as the whole ingredient. It is whole beef. It is whole chicken. It is sweet potato. It is brown rice. And then the second thing you need to know, is the kibble extruded, the cheaper kibble, or is it baked at a lower temperature? If it's baked, it's considered just processed, not ultra processed. If it's extruded, it's considered ultra processed. And the easiest thing to think about this, it's coming as far away as anything you'd ever create in your kitchen. There's no way you're gonna get some chicken and you're gonna get some brown rice and you're gonna then turn it into a giant slurry in a blender. You're gonna force it through high heat into this high pressure steam machine and come out with this. Whereas you could have some beef, some sweet potato, you might cook it in the pot for a few hours, that meat all breaks down, you could then bake it in the oven and you could chop it into little squares. Those squares, they kind of might look like this baked kibble. So our unnamed bag of yellow food, it has corn, meat, and bone meal. That's all considered ultra-processed. Corn gluten meal, ultra-processed. Anything with the word meal, it's ultra-processed. Preserved with BHA, carcinogenic preservative, also considered ultra-processed. Natural flavored chicken byproduct meal, more ultra-processing, along with some artificial colors. Blue 2, yellow 5, yellow 6, more ultra-processed ingredient. If you see the word meal, you see the word byproduct, you see the word pea protein, it's not just whole peas, that's all considered ultra processed. Tula's kibble she's currently eating now. Raw beef, great. Real animal protein, I can identify it. Not ultra processed lamb meal. Unfortunately, it is ultra processed. Pearl barley, it's a real thing. Whole peas, it's a real thing. Whole carrots, fresh whole apples. No artificial preservatives, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors. They don't make the kibble by extrusion, they bake it. That's considered processed, not ultra processed. Does this kibble check the box as being 100% not ultra processed? No, there's a few ingredients in there, including some of the meals that are ultra processed. I know with myself, it is far better that I eat real whole foods as opposed to cheddar bunnies. I know for Tula, I'm convinced it'd be far better if I make her food from home. You know, real ingredients like animal beef. But I don't always have the time to do that. So Tula still is eating kibble, but I'm trying to make a better informed choice. I'm making a point of staying away as many ultra processed food products as possible. I'm feeding her kibble that it is baked. It is not extruded. Once again, that is considered processed, but not ultra processed. If you're feeding kibble, I encourage you to look at the ingredient list. Ensure that those are as minimally processed ingredients as possible. They're not ultra processed. There's a least number of meals, for instance. And then ask, is this pet food? Is it made extruded or is it made baked? We want the baked, less processed, healthier kibble. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets on ultra processed pet food. Click up there to subscribe, hit the bell to sign up for notifications. Then when you click that link directly in the box below, I can send you a copy of my free book.